Okay, so good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I sure appreciate you being here. My name is Donna Miller, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Purse Power. And Purse Power is working to help women use their massive purchasing power to drive positive change. We believe that if women who make 80% of all purchasing decisions would choose to buy from the companies that promote women, and we could create a funding stream for battered women's shelters in the process, that we could shatter glass ceilings and change lives. So that's what Purse Power is trying to do. We are partnering with the Tom Love Innovation Hub at OU and at the iHub, which is a cutting-edge facility to foster the creation, development, and implementation of innovative ideas. And I am excited to have Deepa Kartha today on the show. So thank you for being here, Deepa.
Excited to be here, Donna. Thanks for having me.
Of course, of course. Okay, you guys were in meeting format today, and we're taping the program, as you know. Videos for our shows are posted on pursepower.com/coronavirus. We post all of our videos there. We've got about 84 of them, so please go there. We've had some major national speakers on the program. People have told us over and over again how impressed they are with the quality of our speakers. And we put up the Friday events posting every Monday, so you can go ahead and register for the show. All right, so let me go ahead and introduce Deepa. Deepa Kartha is the founder of Journyz, which is a productivity and collaboration tool that helps organizations take their initiatives from vision to outcome by bringing together processes and people motivators. Prior to joining or founding Journyz, she was a technology executive, where she spent 20 years in the financial services industry leading global technology initiatives. She has extensive experience managing global teams and has partnered with companies such as Best Buy, Costco, Neiman Marcus, Menards, and Apple, and several more. Her unique experience matching process and technology to create winning teams, deliver business value, and transform organization has led her to start her company Journyz. She is a self-described, I love this, productivity hacker. I want to hear more about this, and process nerd. She is a purpose nerd. She is passionate about transforming how teams work to deliver business value while keeping their stakeholders engaged, purposeful, and happy, which of course everybody needs, right?
Of course.
All right, so let's go ahead and start with the questions here. First of all, tell us your story. Give us your backstory. Who are you? How'd you get here?
My backstory, actually, Donna, we were talking about this earlier, right? I had two choices. Do I become an engineer or do I become a doctor? My entire life, I thought I was going to become a doctor, but one day I decided, no, engineering it is, and ended up doing computer science. So my career, as you know, has been spent mostly in banks. And, interestingly enough, what I found is that, initially when you start in a technology career, everything is about programming, software development, programming. It's like, oh yeah, there is an app for that, right? There is always a solution for that. And then slowly, as I started working with people and managing people, I realized, no, it's not about programming and software development. It's really about processes. It is about processes. You need to define the process and people follow it, it's fine. But then later I realized it's really not about processes. It's actually about people, because you can have the best programs, the best processes, but if people are unhappy, nothing works. So that is kind of how, I evolved into, from a regular banking tech person to being an entrepreneur, and created a productivity platform, which is all about combining these three pieces together with the people piece right in the center.
Very good. Very good. As a former HR executive, I'm all about it. Congratulations. I agree. Okay. You've done some inspiring things, and you've had significant success in your career. Can you tell me some of the most important crossroads you've had, and your secrets to success, if you have some?
Absolutely. I think one of the first crossroads that you have is really moving from a tech or an individual contributor to realizing that you can be a lot more effective if you're able to corral people together and make things happen, right? So that was one important career change, or an important
54 miles till we go to the...
Oh, wait a minute. Let me put you on silent here. Hang on. Go ahead.
Right. And then after that, the biggest thing really was, again, as I was mentioning, right? It's, once you realize that it's really, people can do a lot of great things. And it's really, how do you put together the right ecosystem, the right conducive behaviors, the right kind of raw materials, if you will, to make great things happen versus trying to push things or versus trying to, force change to happen? How do you create an environment where change can happen naturally? So that was a big realization for me as well. And this actually happened. Again, I'm not sure if all of your, reader or viewers might know this or not, but, we had, let me get a little geeky here, right? So we have two ways in which you could create, you could actually do major technology projects. The old way of doing it was, hey, you define everything, you build it, you create it, and guess what? 2 years later, what you wanted to create, it's already gone. Life has moved on, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the other way is actually called agile development, where you're doing everything just in time, on the spot. So the reason why it is interesting, you might not think so, but the reason why it's interesting is that for that to happen, you cannot do all the planning and put a bunch of armies together to make it happen. Everybody needs to be aligned to make it happen every single day.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the part where, as we actually evolved our, the way we build, build software, that was actually another big piece of how you needed to change the way you behave so that you can actually create great things not by leading from the front, but by leading from the back and really letting teams make great things happen. If that makes sense.
It does. Now, part of what's going on for me as you're talking is I'm thinking we do have business leaders with large businesses that watch this program too, but we've also got a lot of entrepreneurs who are trying to do things with technology, right? And we've got to be able to do it to compete. Do you have any insight about that in terms of the software development or product development we do as small business owners to be effective in this kind of environment that you're talking about?
So with small businesses, earlier with software, it was all about you had to build it, you had to engineer it, right? And then it got evolved into, no, you need to configure it. And now it got evolved into you need to consume it the best way possible. There is so much that is out there. It is really all about, technology can be your biggest nemesis or technology can be your biggest blessing. And, how do you actually use the technology the way you want it, not the way the software developers built it, but the way you want it, and how are you able to shape and mold it? That is going to make the biggest difference between, again, using something that everybody is kicking and screaming about it versus using something that really matches the way your business is, the way your flow is.
And I know I didn't put this question down as something that I wanted to ask you, but it's occurring to me as we're talking. So there's someone that's reached out to me about doing a no-code app. And you used no code in the term for your platform.
Yeah.
Can you talk about what that is and whether?
Sure. So, in the past, again, when you think about traditional technology, you have these software engineers sitting and coding things, right? So now how do you have a small department, IT department or whatever, and then you have the entire organization depending on that department to do all the work, because nowadays there is no business that is not technology. Every business is a technology business, whether you like it or not, right? Because that is the only way you can be efficient, that is the only way you can scale. So no-code platform is really about how can everybody in the business become a developer? So can you actually literally drag and drop things and create something versus having to depend on a software developer to develop something for 6 months and then you come back and say, oh, this is not what I wanted. So that's what that no-code is, where you can actually literally drag and drop and create flows and processes based on how you are envisioning your department to be or your business to be.
Very interesting. Do you have any resources for learning more about that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, obviously, you can Google it. You can actually go look at, you can go look at Udemy and all of those, Coursera and all of that. You can also, come talk to us for Journyz, and we can show you some examples of how Journyz can be used to create the no-code environment as well. But there are plenty of resources available.
Okay, very good. Thank you. I know we went off on a tangent there, but it was an
I
interesting
know we
tangent.
went
All right.
a little technical tangent, didn't we?
It's all good. It's all good. Okay, so a lot of women are starting businesses. These women have businesses. Do you have any insights on the transition from going from a corporate kind of role to an entrepreneurship role, and who that's appropriate for and who it isn't?
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a very interesting question, Donna, because, at the end of the day, everybody has ideas, right? I mean, human beings end up having 10, 20 ideas in a day of, oh, I can create something for this, I can create a business for that, etc. Right? So the first piece of it is ideas, but ideas itself is not going to be the business. The business is all about execution. The business is all about making money, right? So, it has to be something where, again, you have an idea, or you have the ability to take an idea and run with it. You have the ability to convert that into what it requires to, to create something concrete. You have the patience to stay with it, and also you have the, also you have to think about what drives your passion, right? Is driving your passion problem solving? Is driving your passion changing people's lives? Whatever it is that drives your passion, making money has to drive your passion also. Because at the end of the day, business is about making money, right? So otherwise, it could be a hobby, it could be an organization, it's not a business. So it's really putting all these pieces together where you really have to kind of, be real and honest with yourself and ask all these questions. It's very easy to be driven by passion. It could be based on, hey, emotions, passion, etc. But it is really taking that passion and converting that into a business plan that has a fixed timeline associated with it, that has some fixed milestone associated with it. Again, that's taking the people aspect of it and converting it back into process, right? Because that is what is needed to really, to start a business.
To make it happen. Absolutely. All right. Okay. What is the mindset, do you think, that's needed to be a successful entrepreneur?
There are several things, but I think one of the biggest things is to realize that everything changes all the time. And you have to be able to surf the change or not, right? Because what you expect is not going to be the way it turns out at all, with respect to whether it's for the business, it's with respect to, your employees, your co-founders. Anything that you expect is not going to be what it is. So you have to be able to realize that, so the ability to handle change, the ability to stay with it, there is this, the grit, right? The ability to stay with it, the ability to be honest with yourself, admit mistakes, the ability to pivot. All of those are needed. And again, what are you for? What are you in this for? You have to be very honest with yourself and make sure that you answer that question for yourself as well.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I agree with everything you said. It's the hardest job I've ever had. I love it, but it's hard. It's hard. Yep. Okay. Let's see here. How do you define entrepreneurship? So I know that there's this idea that people can be entrepreneurial inside a company. What's that about, and how do you do that?
Yeah. So, I mean, most of the companies, if you take a look at traditional enterprises, take a look at any banks, for example, since I'm from the banking background, the competition for the banks are not other banks. The competition for banks are the big tech. It could be Amazon, Facebook, Google, etc. So they are the competition. So banks cannot work the way they work traditionally. So it's not about making what they did faster. It is about completely revamping everything that they're doing. So to make that happen, you really need to be very creative about, about what you do, how you do, the markets that you're going after, what the possibilities are, how can you bring things that are happening in adjacent industries and kind of put it into your own area. So there is all these various avenues that you can pursue within, even when you're within a corporation, right? So there is innovative ideas. How do you implement it versus just being operational? right? I mean, you can just come in and day out and be operational, be good at what you do, or you can actually take a look at what do I need to do to get my business, get my department to a different level? What are those various things and how can I implement it? Right? So those would be what would be entrepreneurial, where again, you don't want to take the risk, you want your income. There are certain things that about being in a corporate life that you like, but then how can you really feed your soul with respect to all the other adventure, creativity, innovation, all of that. So that is where entrepreneurship can come into the picture.
It's interesting that you bring that up, because I think companies often, or leaders often state that they want people to do that, but I don't think the internal systems and cultures often support it. Do you agree?
Very true, very true. Because at the end of the day, a large corporation. So if you take an example of what happened to Kodak, right? I mean, the reason why iPhone became successful and the reason why Kodak did not invent iPhone is because that would have been a threat to their revenue stream. So when you have a cash cow business, anything that you do, I mean, anything that you do that impacts that business becomes a threat. So it has to be leaders with vision who have to realize that it is okay that we disrupt ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, because, this is what a lot of the big tech companies do. They know that they are going to be disrupting themselves. They know that they're going to be impacting their own revenue streams by looking at all of these innovations. And when companies don't have the appetite to do that, that's when it becomes like a side thing, and then it doesn't take off.
Right, and they can die. They can
Right.
die because of it.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Because somebody else will do it, and then they're going to be eaten alive. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the other thing, it was interesting. I use the example of like Merrill Lynch and those guys, although the financial management firms, and then E-Trade comes in.
Yep.
And cuts them off at the knees, right? And they're not even looking there as a potential competitor.
Exactly.
I hadn't thought of Amazon and Google and those people as being competitors to banks. I didn't understand that.
Yeah.
Can you talk more about that? What do you mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
think about a company like Amazon, what it can do. It's a competitor for everybody, right? I mean, Amazon started as, hey, books. Then it's, hey, we're going to disrupt the entire retail environment. Now think about things like Amazon. Now what do they have? They have access to customers. Now think about what are the other kind of products that they can offer customers. They can offer banking to customers. They can offer credit card to customers. They can offer payments to customers. So now when you're looking at banks, what do banks have? They have the customer list. They have the customer's money. Think of any other company that has access to exactly that, and what else can they offer these customers as additional products? And a lot more.
Wow, that's a useful way to look at things. It really is. And kind of looking sideways that I doubt most of us think about most days. Okay, all right. Okay, so given that you work for a private equity company, you're an entrepreneur yourself, can you share some insights on female entrepreneurs in particular? Are there things that we do that positively or negatively impact us, in particular around the valuation of our companies?
Mm-hmm. I think, one big thing that I've seen with female entrepreneurs is that we, either because of the nature of who we are or because of the fact that we don't get help, we don't ask for help, we don't get much help. So we end up doing a lot more things ourselves. So which means that from a scaling perspective, we are pretty late to the game, right? I mean, when asking for funding, when looking at scaling, we are late to the game. But on the other side, we might have a business that is extremely well run, so that when it's time to scale, it's very easy to scale because you don't have to clean up a lot of things. You're not taking shortcuts, etc. So I think with female entrepreneurs, I think there are basically two sides of the equation, which is, when you're looking at investors, they may not understand what your product or service is all about, or they might not appreciate what your product or service is all about. And when they look at you, they're not looking at, it's not as if they're looking in the mirror. So they might not think that you are the person who might be able to, to make your business big. So I think so there are things that female entrepreneurs can do, work with other female entrepreneurs, work with mentors to kind of fix the perception, understand the kind of risks and things that they can take, understand the kind of, basically being out there more, which can actually give them a lot of leverage for their business. So those are the kind of things that female entrepreneurs can do more. But on the other hand, there is definitely the perception, especially in the investment community, there is, it's harder for a female entrepreneur for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting. They actually recorded VCs talking about businesses that were pitching, and they saw how they talked about female entrepreneurs and male entrepreneurs, and the language was very different. They were very focused on opportunity with the males and risk reduction with the females.
Oh, absolutely. I faced that even with my own friends, where this is about some seed capital, where they were talking so much about risk. And the same person, when I was actually putting money in something that he was doing, he was talking all about opportunities. So I see exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know what we do about that. I'm not sure. I think we got to call it out when we see it, but it's hard to do.
Yeah, I think it is more of, I think even, having mentors and sponsors and all of that, because even within, let's talk about entrepreneurship, right? Within companies.
Yeah.
So within companies, what I've noticed also is that, again, female executive might be a little bit more risk averse than male executive. When we're talking about, bringing new solutions and bringing new innovations and trying something new. So there's a lot more operational focus than innovation focus. I know I'm generalizing here, but there seems to be a little bit more operational focus than innovation focus. So that more focus on that business development, innovation, the commercial aspect of it, that I believe is something that all of us can change, which I think is going to make a difference. It'll have like a difference in how female entrepreneurs get the attention, mentorship, development, investment, etc. they need.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, so Deborah's asking a question. What advice do you have for female entrepreneurs when it comes to integrating or balancing work and life in a way that fosters well-being and is sustainable?
Right. So that's a very hard question, right? Because as an entrepreneur, your work is your baby, and there is never a time when you're not focusing on your baby. So that is very hard. But saying that, I was just, Don and I were just talking about, like earlier in the morning today, I had just finished teaching yoga and dance somewhere at a gym. So there are certain kind of things that you have to physically set time aside, where you don't have a choice, right? Because the minute you have a choice between, doing some busy work and having fun or enjoying, my tendency is to do the busy work.
Right.
I think that might be a problem with a lot of us. I think it's literally, understanding what your passions are and physically putting that on your calendar, so that you don't, you should not give yourself a choice other than do what you need to do to kind of, balance yourself and feel balanced.
Yeah. I just had a conversation with a friend this morning, and I was saying they've got to prioritize their own health first, right? I do too, and I don't, by the way.
Right. None of us do, and and part of it is, all these practices help, right? Meditation practice, yoga, workout, all of these things help. But again, it helps only if you set that intention at the beginning of the day and you ask yourself at the end of the day, did I do what I said I was going to do? And hold yourself accountable. And if you cannot be held accountable, find a friend who can hold you accountable. So that's the only way to kind of help each other with the accountability piece. Because it's just easy to just, get into a PowerPoint and do a spreadsheet. It's just so easy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So a colleague of ours, she walks every morning, and we were talking about doing our meeting in the morning while we're walking, just to make sure we both walk. Yeah. The accountability partner is a good point. All right. So Jean was asking, do you happen to know the percentage of women to men as entrepreneurs? And I'd be interested, because you're involved with private equity, how many women you see versus men coming forward to get funding.
Very little, especially in fintech areas where our group is very little. But I think in general, interestingly enough, there is a pretty big number of women entrepreneurs. They might not be going and asking for funding, but there is a big number of women entrepreneurs that are there, not in tech or anything. I'm talking about a lot of small businesses. a lot of small businesses are women, because
Yeah.
it gives them the ability to, to have some control over their own life, to structure the business they wanted. So all of that is there. There is a pretty big number. I don't know the exact number, but in technology, I know that the number is way, way, way less.
Yeah, and we all need to be there. We need to be there. That's where the
Right.
future is, right?
Mhm. Yep, absolutely.
Actually, I hadn't asked you, I hadn't come up with this question either, but I'd love to know what you see coming. Like, there's a lot of technology change coming. Where do you
Yep.
see the opportunities in the marketplace?
Definitely there is a lot of, always the opportunities in the marketplace are defined by, big trends, that they're defined by regulations. So these externals. If you take a look at the, what do you call that, Porter's five forces or whatever, right? It's all these other external things that are going to, that actually influence things. So if you just take a look at the news at this point of time, infrastructure, the infrastructure stuff, energy, right? Then you obviously, we know that the CHIPS Act passed recently, which means that there's a lot of manufacturing of chips here, which means that there is all kind of, all kind of systems that you can build with the newly manufactured chips in the US. Obviously, AI, ML, and all that are, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and all are trends that are there, that have been there for a while. But I would say if you're looking for what is coming, just look in the news and look at big items in the news and say, okay, how can that translate into, something new and innovative that nobody's thought about?
Fantastic. Is there a process that you recommend for doing that?
Not that I.
Not specifically. Okay, just thought I asked.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, you're right.
But you
You're
can
right.
always do mind maps and things like that, right? So when I started my company, the first thing that I did is a mind map of what am I interested in? What are the trends? What are my strengths? What are the weaknesses? Let's figure out the things that where my passion and my abilities, and what is interesting in the market. Where do they meet? There are those kind of, again, it doesn't have to be tools. You can draw it on a piece of paper, but those are all techniques that can help.
Yeah, that reminded me, I used to do Venn diagrams where I'd say, okay, what does the market need? What am I interested in doing? What can I make money at? Try to figure out where that all align.
Exactly.
Okay. Let's see here. All right. So let's see here. Anything else? So you've been an advocate for women in business. I know you are. Do you have a vision for our collective future? I mean, I think that we kind of lost some ground during the pandemic.
Absolutely.
And what's it going to take to make it back and regain our momentum in this country?
I think it is, so we've got this, based on how I've seen the summer gone, is we had such a, COVID had such an impact on us, whether we knew it or not, whether we admitted it or not. I think those 2 years sitting kind of cooped up has really changed a lot of who we are, what our priorities have changed, how we live our life, everything has changed, right? And what I'm seeing right now is that it's just back to normal with a big bang. It's like, everybody's meeting, everything is full, except for the work piece of it, right? The work piece of it is still, people are still hesitating to come into work, etc. So I know that we are, during the pandemic, there was a lot of virtual events and all of that stuff, and people kind of got, had enough of that. But I think it is time for us to really bring that back and actually, form purposeful communities where, it's not you have all of these communities where certain people talk, the rest, everybody just listens. But I think more than that, it'll be better to have maybe like 20 people where everybody has a part to play. And again, coming together on something that everybody cares about, right? Because again, the thing that I've seen is that when we have a general purpose community where everybody has different opinions, it's just a lot of noise, no action happens. But if we can actually form something together based on our interests, our passions, and the ability to contribute, that becomes very important, then a lot of things can happen. So my thinking is that it has to start group by group, village by village, and really at the grassroots level, bring it back up. Having a megaphone at the top, I don't believe it's going to make a difference, because that's all we've been, we're on Zoom all day. It doesn't penetrate our senses anymore, having that megaphone. We ourselves have to take interest. And I think, my thought is that let this year pass. I think we needed a break. We needed a break to kind of come back to normal. But then after that, I think there are things that, we should take up and really go at it week after week, month after month, with some specific goals in mind, and make it happen.
Yeah. No, I think it's interesting. I think you're right. I mean, it's self-organizing, right? Around our interests and our passions and capabilities is what I think I hear you saying. Okay, interesting. So Deborah's saying, what helps you to maintain your focus on your priorities as an entrepreneur when there are always so many things competing for your attention? Boy, do I agree with that.
Journeys.
Okay, you can talk about your product. Yeah.
Honestly, what I do is that I have I actually write down these items literally, first thing in the morning. I say, these are the 5 things or 15 things or whatever that I need to do today. And then I literally reprioritize it every day. Things that are done, great. Things that doesn't make the list, get it out. And can you do this on a piece of paper? Sure, but it becomes messy very fast. So that's why, I actually use Journeys to write it down, reprioritize, and check it at the end of the day and say, where am I? Am I good? Am I not good? If not, move to the next day, literally doing that. Yes.
Yeah. Well, and I know you've run big teams, you've run big projects. And so taking all of that at the top and orchestrating it and making sure it's happening, I think is part of what Journeys does, right? As a tool.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. Okay. All right. Why don't everybody turn their mics back on, turn your cameras back on, and let's just have a conversation. What questions do you have for Deepa? And while they're doing that, let's see here. Let's see if I've got something else. Is there anything, as if people come back, is there anything that we need to be doing to prepare ourselves for the future? Back to the future we just talked about. What are the priorities?
I think the first priorities are ourselves. We need to start with ourselves, right? I mean, what do we want? Start with start with our wants and desires. Do we actually know what it is, right? And then once we figure that out, in a lot of the cases, you still have people talking about, I don't know what I want to do when I grow up. Do we know what we want to do when we grow up, right? So start with that, and then you can actually kind of get it into smaller pieces of, okay, for me to make this happen, what do I need to do the next 3 months, the next 6 months, the next 1 year, the next 5 years, or what have you. So it has to start with understanding ourselves, understanding our desires, and then figure out how to make it happen.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. And putting some structure around it to make sure that it does, sounds like.
Right. As you can see, I told you I'm a little bit of a process, geek. So yeah.
That's helpful. Makes sense. Okay, who else has got questions or comments they want to make? Anybody? I'll just start. So when I was in a launch pad when we first started the business, and the guy that was at the top, what he used to say about that keeping on task thing is, as an entrepreneur, again, he didn't use a tool as sophisticated as Journeys, but a list every morning that he prioritized. And he said, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then when he'd be drawn away on something else, he'd go back to 1, go back to 1, go back to 1 until he got it off his list. Then he'd go to 2. I thought, okay, there's a tool. To keep focus.
It is important, because otherwise you're very scattered brain, right? I mean, at the end of the day, you're like, I was busy the entire day, but I got nothing done.
Yeah.
Right? So yeah.
Feels like that. Okay, Deborah, how about you?
I do. I have a quick question, Deepa. If the you now who has all this experience and wisdom can talk to the you who was launching on the entrepreneurial journey, what would you tell her? What advice would you give her, or just what thoughts would you share with her?
Be more bold. I would say I was very hesitant, I wanted to make sure that the I's are dotted, T's are crossed. No, be more bold, take more risks, get in front of people all the time. So, instead of, I'm a little bit of an engineer mentality, let me go figure something out. Then get in front of people all the time. And that is what's most important. I mean, I'm still telling myself that.
Right. How about you, Nan? Did you have something?
No, I really don't. No,
Okay.
you know me, I would speak up if I did.
Okay. Yeah, no, I get it. I'm not a process person. I'm not. So I think, Deepa, what you're saying is useful, right? I need help putting structure around stuff. I do this personality instrument as a coach, and it says that I'm good at the vision and all of that, but in terms of making sure you execute the whole process thing is a struggle for some people. It's easy for others. It's easy for you.
Well, Deepa, let me think about this a minute. I think there's various personality types. Well, I've done this profile and all that kind of stuff. And I do think that I am a personality profile that has trouble focusing. I like change. I love change. And I want new, exciting things around me all the time, which means I probably should live on a cruise ship. This is what I see with now they are selling condos on a cruise ship. And I think, oh man, that's what I should do in life when I grow up, which is going to be a while still. But I keep thinking, other than the daily thing, how do you keep yourself really focused when you have so much to do and it just seems to pop up constantly? Any thoughts on that?
So, I think this is where the whole, it is at the end of the day, it is the daily thing. That's those, what do you call that? The Stephen Covey's rocks or whatever, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you have the big rocks, you have the pebbles, you have the sand. We spend most of the time on the sand.
Yeah.
Right. And then, so it is that ruthless prioritization, because, it's, what is that movie Up, where he's like, squirrel, squirrel, squirrel. I mean, that is how most of us are, right? I mean, you see some shiny thing, you're like, you want it. But the question is that, this is where it kind of goes back to are you doing this for fun, or are you doing this to make money? Because if you're doing this for fun, you can do squirrel, squirrel all day. But if you're doing this for money, if you're chasing all those squirrels, is that going to get you from a financial goal perspective? That's where the discipline of the financial goal does matter. Because again, at the end of the month, if it is not going to get you that extra dollars, is it worth your while? And if so, is that a hobby for you, or is that a business? So I think for us, it is a lot of us like being busy and like that excitement. But if it is not adding to the bottom line, and if that is what we are doing, then we need to get somebody who's actually good at that operationally. They have them, do these things, because these things need to happen for the business to grow.
Yeah, I think you're right. I have done a number of courses, and I've got an international bestseller book. I've done a lot of things, accomplished a lot of those kinds of things. But I keep thinking, okay, that's not making me the revenue I want. So maybe I should change to something else. Do I need to appeal more to this person? I'm constantly doing the lead magnets. I'm constantly doing all of those things to increase. But I think my biggest problem is, and it has been, I've pretty much decided on my avatar, which is a woman generally about 60 and over. And I'm looking at how we can build something to help people identify how they can live with significance, not just put their foot in front of each other day after day. So I've got to reach that market, and I'm trying to figure out how to reach that market. I try the lead magnets, I try to get the email addresses. I've gone that whole route many times, but I'm still not reaching the person enough of the people I want to reach.
Yeah. Actually, marketing is also one of these places where I've seen that, you have strategy, you have execution, you have tactics. We spend all of our time on tactics. Let me make this post. Let me do this. Let me do the lead magnet. But is that towards a plan or not? Would be the question, right? So it is. So the marketing plan is like, hey, my marketing plan is to increase my number by 1,000 people. For that purpose, I am going to do this, this, and this. This is going to give me 5 people. This one is going to give me 10, you know, so that piece of it of really taking your vision and then converting that into techniques and following through on the techniques versus trying 50, it's like trying the 50 techniques is throwing spaghetti against the wall and saying, did it stick? Did it not? But we end up throwing so much spaghetti against the wall that we are wasting our time.
So if, let's say we focus on selling the book, you know, you can choose anything you want.
Yeah.
I'm making a quiz funnel to sell where I can do the webinar to be able to sell one of the new courses that I've got up. And so I'm headed in that direction. I'm also want to head in the book direction, but both of those have a lot of similarities, you know, in the audience. So let's say I'm focused and how do you get the strategy? What strategy is there other than getting to the right groups? I think a strategy might be, and I'd like your thought on this, that maybe I should make a talk that resonates with people that are more in this group, maybe thinking about retirement or early retirement, and then go around and give that talk to women's groups. And I think there's maybe that's the way I could take some books with me. I could give my email or my marketing for courses. I could do a flyer. I could do whatever. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah. So I would say, again, going back to the thing that you said earlier, you know your customer. It's a 60-year-old woman who's trying to have a life with significance. Now the question of where do they live? Where do they play? Where do they spend their time? You know, so they live in these areas. They play here. They spend their time in Facebook. They have book clubs. So start with the customer, understanding where they live and where they engage, and then within each one of them and say, how many people live in Facebook? How many people live here? So if I do something here, how many can I get? You know, so you literally have to start with something like that and then, you know, expand it. And then you say at the end of it, it's like, okay, I'm going to do an ad on Facebook. How many can I get? 100? Of that, how many will take? 2? Is that enough? You know, so it's like literally connecting all the pieces together versus saying, somebody told me to put something on Facebook and Snapchat and this and this and this and this. I did these 15 things, nothing happened. Because the activity does not create the result. The plan. What are you doing with it? Then what? Then what? Then what? What 15 things do I have to do sequentially to get me to the number? Not what 15 things am I doing parallelly, and you're doing the step 1 of every single thing.
Step 1 of every single thing.
Yeah, that's what it is, right? That's what ends up happening.
Yeah. This is a useful conversation. This applies to all of us, I think. Okay.
Yeah, well, Jane made a comment, and Jane, talk a little bit about your comment, and then I'm just to segue into that. The person that was suggesting what I do suggested that maybe I try it out locally. I've just moved to a new community. I know nothing about them, but it's a pretty good sized community on both sides of the river in Washington and Portland. So I'm thinking, okay, how about if I looked for the women's groups in those areas, made up my talk, look for the women's group, and just start out at the local level. And then Jane, what was some of your thinking? Oops, she just went off. But I think her thinking is go to move up then to state and national organizations.
Sorry.
Jane,
Yeah, there she is.
Yeah, sorry, I had an interruption. I think that's a great idea, Nan, to speak locally to some good sized groups locally, get your feet wet, and then absolutely go to the large groups. That's what I've done, and it works.
It's effective. Okay. Okay. What other questions or comments do you guys have? And then we'll wrap it up.
I just want to say really quickly, this has been a value-packed hour. Thank you, Deepa, so much. You've really helped me to think about some things as an entrepreneur. And one of the big takeaways for me is going to be telling myself, be more bold and get in front of people all the time, which is not necessarily my comfort zone, but I cannot help people. I cannot share with them what I do. They can't come to me for help if they don't know what I do because I don't
Right.
get in front of people. So thank you. That is worth a lot. And I really appreciate your sharing that. It's given me great clarity.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely,
Really
very
good
happy.
point.
Happy to
point.
have you. Happy that you had me, Donna.
Oh, of course, of course. All right, any final thoughts by the audience, and then we'll go to the final questions for you. Anything else, guys? Okay, Deepa, would you please share your top 3 learnings? So what do you want us to have learned from you today? What's the most important things?
The most important thing is that, number one, a vision combined with a plan, combined with a strategy, combined with an execution and accountability around it.
Mm-hmm.
That is very important, right?
Yeah.
And that discipline is very important.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing is, kind of bring together as a community and then help each other, because that again is, each person is consumed in their own problems, but as a community, we can definitely help each other be successful. And the third one is, I think the whole thing of, be bold. It's okay to make mistakes. You will make mistakes. It's fine. Just be bold and, be out there all the time.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. I mean, I think that we think too much, and it's kind of that idea of fail fast, right? Try it.
Right.
Is it going to work? Not, change it, move forward.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. How about actions you think we should take? What are the top 3 things we should do coming out of here?
To actually put this into play, it is, it's easy for us to be day in, day out listening in a listening mode. We do need to convert that into actions, which is what did I learn and how am I going to actually physically do this, right?
Yeah.
What am I going to do? How am I going to do something different? How am I going to incorporate a new habit, something new today?
Mm-hmm. 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 Okay. All right. I want to give you a chance to just briefly talk about Journyz if you'd like.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So Journyz is basically a super app where, as we talked about earlier, it's a no-code platform where you can design all kinds of things. We have you can design your own CRM, you can design your own accountability systems, operational systems. So this is really for smaller companies, for smaller teams. When I say small, anywhere from like 10 to 500 people is what I'm talking about. To really bring the entire organization together. If you'd like to know more, you can go to send an email to ask@journyz.com, journyz.com. And if there is anybody that you think might be interested, I would love to connect.
All right. Thank you. Thank you again. Really, I appreciate you being here. You're a very senior person with a lot of experience, and thanks for making the time to share your expertise.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, one more, and I'm just going to close up if you don't mind here. So just FYI, guys, we got our monthly networking session next Friday, and please go ahead and join us and bring a friend. That's an opportunity for you to connect with other women across the country. Hopefully you'll build partnerships and get some deals and get to know some folks. And then on September 30th, I have Jennifer Edwards with the SBA on to close the meeting. So Purse Power, OU, and McLaren Cares are partnering to implement a program that's designed to help underrepresented people have high-paying careers in technology. We're looking for companies that can sponsor 20 to 25 technology students. If you want to support this program, please go ahead and go to pursepower.com and buy us a cup of coffee. And then last but not least, please remember, Purse Power, we have it. Let's use it. Thanks, you guys. Take care. Have a good week. I hope you make it next Friday.